Study guide for the integer test. Number 1, which of the following inequalities is not correct? So we want to simplify each of these numbers. We have -3. The absolute value of -3 is 3. The absolute value of -2 is 2. 3 is greater than 2, so that is correct. So that cannot be the answer to this question. B, the absolute value of -5 is 5. The absolute value of -6 is 6. 5 is less than 6, so it's not B. The absolute value of -1 is 1. 2 is greater than 1, so it's not C. The absolute value of -8 is 8. The absolute value of -1 is 1. 8 is greater than 1, so this is not true. Number 2, simplify. This is saying the opposite of -17. The opposite of -17 is 17, and the opposite of that is -17. Number 3, we work from left to right. -10 minus 3, we use additive inverse. Keep your -10, change subtraction to addition, take the opposite of 3. 10 plus -3, my signs are the same, so I add them and keep the sign. That's -13. Bring everything else down. -13 plus -15, my signs are the same, so I add them and keep the sign. Bring everything else down. -28 minus -7. Whenever I'm subtracting, I use additive inverse to change it to addition so that I can use my adding rules. So -28 plus the opposite of -7 is +7. My signs are different, so I subtract. 28 minus 7 is 21. 28 has the higher absolute value, so my answer is -21. Number 4, -6 times 7. 6 times 7 is 42. And a negative times a positive is negative. Ava's bank balance was $491. Her deposits and withdrawals since then were 72. She deposited 72, withdrew 205. Deposited 305, withdrew 41. What is her new balance? We take 491. We add her deposit of 72. We add her withdrawal of 205, so that's negative. Add her deposit of 305. And then add her withdrawal of 41, so that's -41. Add from left to right. 491 plus 72. My signs are the same, so I add them. 1 plus 2 is 3. 9 plus 7 is 16. 4 plus 1 is 5. Bring everything else down. Next, I have 563 plus -205. My signs are different, so I subtract. 13 minus 5 is 8. 5 minus 0 is 5. 5 minus 2 is 3. It's positive. Bring everything else down. 358 plus 305. My signs are the same, so I add. 8 plus 5 is 13. 1 plus 5 is 6. 3 plus 3 is 6. So that's 663 plus -41. My signs are different, so I subtract. 3 minus 1 is 2. 6 minus 4 is 2. And bring down your 6. Her balance is $622. All right, number 6. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The opposite of that is -5. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7. Negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. 98 minus negative 24, we use additive inverse. Keep your 98. Change subtraction to addition. Take the opposite of the second number. My signs are the same, so I add. 8 plus 4 is 12. 10 plus 2 is 12. My answer is 122. Negative 23 minus 79, I'm subtracting, so I use additive inverse. Negative 23 plus negative 79. My signs are the same, so I add. 79 plus 23. 9 plus 3 is 12. 7 plus 3 is 10. They're both negative, so my answer is negative. Negative 102. 21 plus negative 75. My signs are different, so I subtract. Always take the number with the highest absolute value when you have to subtract and put that number on top to subtract your other number. 5 minus 1 is 4. 7 minus 2 is 5. 75 is my bigger number, my biggest absolute value, so my answer is negative. Negative 54. Number 10, order the numbers from least to greatest. Negative 10 is the smallest. Then negative 5, negative 1, 0, 2, 4, and 5. A mountain climber is standing in a valley at the base of a mountain. The valley floor is 32 feet below sea level. The top of the mountain is 345 feet above sea level. How far will he have to climb to reach the top of the mountain from the valley floor? So when you're talking about how far something has to go, you take the biggest one, 345, subtract the smallest one, 32 feet below sea level. That's going to be negative 32. Anytime you're subtracting, you add the opposites. Keep your first number. Change subtraction to addition. Take the opposite of the second number. My signs are now the same, so I add. 5 plus 2 is 7. 4 plus 3 is 7. Bring down your 3. He will have to travel 377 feet. Fill in the blank with the correct vocabulary term. Blank is a number's distance from 0 on the number line. That is absolute value. Absolute value is the distance a number is from 0 on the number line. And distance is always positive, so absolute value is always positive. Whole numbers and their opposites are called integers. Number 14, at the beginning of the month, you deposit $100 into your checking account. You withdraw the following: $30 during the week 1, $25 during week 2, $50 during week 3, $20 during week 4. Which statement is false? You withdrew more than you deposited, so let's add these up. Negative 30 plus negative 25 plus negative 50 plus negative 20. Negative 30 plus negative 25 is negative 55. Bring everything else down. Negative 55 plus negative 50 is negative 105. Plus negative 20 is negative 125. So my total that I withdrew was 125. Total that I deposited was 120. I withdrew more money than I put in. So that's true. You withdrew $75 this month. I just counted up that I withdrew 125, so that's false. You withdrew more in the last 2 weeks than you did in the first 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, I withdrew 70. In the first 2 weeks, I withdrew 55. So I withdrew more in the second week. In the first 2 weeks, you withdrew 55. That is true. So the answer, the one that is the statement that is false, is B. Which statement is false? Negative 3 is less than negative 4. That is false. The opposite of a positive integer is a negative integer. That is true. The product of two negative integers is positive, so a negative times a negative is a positive. That is true. And the sum of a number and its opposite, those are called zero pairs. So when you add them together, it's a 0. That's true. Which of the following statements is true? 15 is less than negative 13. That's false. Negative 13 is greater than negative 15. That's true. Negative 13 is less than negative 15. That's false. And negative 15 is greater than positive 13. That is false. A submarine is 15 feet below sea level. An airplane is 264 feet above sea level. How far above the submarine is the plane? So we're going to take the biggest one, 264. And to find out how far above, we have to subtract the other one, which is negative 58. So we're going to do additive inverse. That's 264 plus 58. 8 plus 4 is 12. 6 plus 6 is 12. 2 plus 1 is 3. 322 feet. 18. A negative divided by negative is positive. So negative 63 divided by negative 9 is positive 7. Negative 9 times positive 6 is negative 54. Negative 132 divided by 12 is negative 11. Negative 5 times negative 8 is positive 40. 70 divided by negative 10 is negative 7. Negative 3 times negative 12 is positive 36. 25 plus negative 12 plus negative 9. 25 plus negative 12, my signs are different, so I subtract. That's 13. Plus negative 9, my signs are different, so I subtract. Keep the sign of the highest number, that is 4. 27 minus 28 becomes 27 plus positive 28. My signs are the same, so I add. That's 55. And 26, I'm subtracting, so I keep my first number, change subtraction to addition, take the opposite of the second number. My signs are the same, so I add and keep my sign. Ron started the day with a score of 12. He lost 4 points, gained 3 points, lost 15 points. What was his score then? So he started out with positive 12. Then we add the negative 4, the 4 points that he lost. Then we add the 3 points that he gained. Then we add the 15 points that he lost. If he lost them, that's represented by a negative number. Add left to right. 12 plus negative 4, my signs are different. So I subtract. 12 minus 4 is 8. Bring everything else down. 8 plus 3 is 11. Bring everything else down. My signs are different, so I subtract. 15 minus 11 is 4. 15 is the number with the highest absolute value, so my answer is negative. So the answer is A, negative 4. 28, which symbol? Negative 10 is less than 19. 29, Nina and 8 of her friends went out for lunch. They agreed to share the bill evenly. The total was $54. How much should each person pay? So this is 54 divided by her 8 friends plus her, so that's 9 people. It's $6 a person. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. The absolute value of 94 is 94, and the opposite of that is negative 94. The absolute value is 26 is 26, and the opposite of that is negative 26.